Okay, I'm back. I'm fixing to forge the blade on the front part of the knife. As you gathered, I do the handle tail first, and if you got any ideas about changing the order of the sequence of the process, I wouldn't do it. It's just not going to work as well. So I've kind of been through all this forward and backwards, and this is the way that I found to be the best way. So that's just my recommendation. You do what you want, but I'd like to see the results. Okay, another thing, since I'm holding it by the tail and I've got to work at an extreme heat out on the tip on the blade front, where I hold it is very, very important in order to be able to I don't want it to get all wrinkled up, bent out of shape too bad. There will be some correcting, yes. But if you hold it, say, back here at the tip, it's going to go everywhere. You won't have the secure hold that you need. So I'm choking up with the box jaw tongs. The box jaw tongs, that's what they look like. So they got a good grip, and I'm sliding all the way up near the ricasso. And I'm going to be working on the horn. So keep in mind that I'm going to be working on trying to get a point on this thing as quick as possible. And I am working trying to get, not to get a fish mouth, but I'm like anybody else. I may do it. We'll see. There may be a tiny one, but I got a way of getting that out of there. All I did was put a point on it, and yeah, there's a little bitty tiny fish mouth there. I'll take a grinder and clean that off, and then I'm gonna draw that out to about that long. I'll thin the spine, and then put a bevel on it. I may even bring the point down, as we often do when we're forging the blade. So let's get rid of that fish mouth. It's only a small one, so. No problem. One of the biggest reasons why newer guys that are forging, why they get a fish mouth, and that's where those corners come around. There's actually a crack, and it looks like a mouth on a fish. It's because they're working too cold, and they're not working aggressive, and they're not working in the right place on the anvil. This is a blacksmith style knife, and a blacksmith is now making it. And a blacksmith, the blacksmith techniques are what you need to use on a knife like this. So the idea where sometimes you're taught, let's say sometimes you're taught to, and that's fine sitting on there because I'm not blowing air on it. The idea that, okay, we're gonna knock the corners in. Knock the corners in. Well, you still got to do something with that material that you knock in. It upsets it and makes those fins a little bit wide. And then you start working on it and you still get a bird's mouth or a fish mouth. Call it whatever you want. It's a mouth. One of the ways of preventing that is getting it at its highest heat tolerance. That would be yellow, about yellow, somewhere along in there. And go to an aggressive place on the anvil. And instead of hitting it on the corners, I hit it behind. I hit it, say I hit it about right here and right there, and that sort of pushes in, and then the middle of that bows out instead of holding itself in and the corners outrunning it. It goes out at the same rate. So it's about as simple as I can put it. But you get it hot, and you got to be more aggressive and use good blacksmithing techniques. And all that is part of it. All that is part of making this knife. So now my goal is to lengthen it. Lengthen it. The blade. I can do that in a couple of different ways. I can do it over the corner of the face of the anvil, or I can do it on the horn, or there's actually another way. I'm going to show you what that is. And you have to, when you're choosing these ways, you have to be willing to fiddle with the tongs and get a hold of it in a way that accommodates that way. So in this way, my hand is on the bottom. I'm going to use my cross peen and sort of work out the length. So over a period of several passes, it just gets longer. Over a period of several passes, it displaces the material, gets it longer. So I don't need any width. I'm okay on width. I need the length. Now, if by chance you have a piece that it just doesn't look like that, and you think, well, the blade's going to be too narrow, then draw it, or cross peen it, or use a hammer face and just go 360 and go all the directions you need to. That may be up to you to some extent. Okay, so I'm constantly aware of how much heat is in that blade. Now I'm going to go to the hammer face and do a little profiling. And you see I pushed the material back in. Now I can take it that way. Pushed it back in narrower, I can take it that way now. We're just letting the piece tell us what it needs to be, what it needs to do. And I don't mean that in that strange sense where someone goes out there and says the steel talks to me. No, the steel don't talk to me. I want it to do what I need it to do. I just got to work within its tolerance. And so I want to make that clear. I just respond by how it looks. If it's not looking the way I want, then I know what direction to go with it. So we'll just do that again. I kind of want to start keeping it cleaner at this point, at this stage. Start watching your scale. You can tell it's considerably thinner than it was already. So I still got a little bit more thickness I want to get rid of right there, and so it'll just go that way. You take assessment as it cools off and you stop hammering and you're about to go back in the fire. Look it over and assess what needs to be done. And then you're ready to do that when it gets hot. You don't have to think about it or do any assessment while it's hot. You're just going to lose heat and waste time. It also wastes fuel. It's important that over time, the more time, over a length of period of time, the more you fiddle with it and just use up your fuel with nothing being accomplished, well, anybody would know that that's a waste. So I'm going back to my cross paint. And that area that I found to be thick, now while it's still hot, still got some color in it, I just take those cross pin marks out. That looks a lot better. As a blade, it looks a lot better. It might not be straight with the handle, but we'll fix that. So this might be a longer video than the others. It's okay. If I reach that point to where I know that we need to take a break, we will, and I'll come back. But we won't do much between this video and the next one if that happens. I don't want you to miss much. So I'm gonna start the bevel. I'm gonna start the bevel, and I got a few comments to make about this bevel. Since this is a forge finish knife, and I want the forge finish to remain where I don't have to grind. Well, I'm not going to bring it up near as high as a traditional knife or a conventional knife, not a traditional. That's the wrong word. So I'm going to actually stop my bevels about halfway, maybe a third or halfway up the blade. And I'm kind of counting on the opposite side to look similar. Let's look at it. See, it kind of mimics that. You see that? That is the anvil doing that. So I've got it jacked up in the air. I'm not holding it flat. I've got it jacked up in the air. And what my hammer's doing over here, the anvil underneath is doing the other side. So I kind of want that to stay centered, straight, and you can take assessment of your hammer skills and maybe how you're holding it. You might have to make an adjustment. So you're part of the equation. So while we've got steel and geometry and heat treat and fire and all that kind of stuff, you also got the blacksmith. So you're part of it. If you're not living up to your part, it's not going to turn out as well. You can ruin it along the way. It's just not going to look as well. Your eye's not calibrated. All those things. You are part of it. So I kind of got a little hook on the front of it. I'm going to straighten that out. I'm waiting on the tip to come up to heat without getting too hot. I don't want it to get too hot. So let's look at it right here. So you see, I'm not wailing on it. I'm actually hammering with purpose, carefully controlling each blow. Now here's something I want you to notice too. I'm actually going to put a back bevel on this blade. So I've got it jacked up. Now let's look at the other side. You can kind of see the shiny spot where the anvil was bearing against it. And also, I'll kind of do a little pass this way. Why am I doing that? I'm doing it because whenever I do grind the bevels, it comes up and misses that part right there. And that gives me my nice little black finish along the spine. So I'm providing a place for that in the geometry. That's all it is. So it's the thickest part of the blade itself. If you cut it in half and looked at it, the thickest part of the blade is right down here, down the middle. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of get prepared. I think we do need to break this up, so let's end this video. And I may do a little filing or grinding, just kind of smooth up that right there. I may hammer it, I may get it hot and hammer it, but anyway, there's no need in you seeing some of this boring stuff. I'll be right back, and we're gonna pull that rivet on it, punch the hole, make it into a knife.